As someone who puts their faith in productivity hacks and mantras, you can guess that I have fine-tuned my morning routine. Yet there have been days when no matter how perfectly I execute my morning routine, I just can't get over fatigue from the day before. And it took me a while to realize it, but it was simply because I had spent so much time giving importance to my get started routine that I had completely neglected an equally important routine, my shutdown routine. Our mornings are connected to our evenings, so having a good routine and preparing for the next day can go a long way in making sure that our days are productive. An effective shutdown routine will help you wake up fresh and help you make room to allow yourself to spend your peak productivity hours on focus work. Hey friend, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Dan, and in this channel we explore the strategies and tools to become more effective and productive. So if you're anything like me and you're always trying to learn how to work smarter rather than harder, please consider subscribing to the channel. And now let's continue with this video. So picture this, it's Wednesday evening and you have just finished your day's work. You're exhausted and you have been longing to watch that new series on Netflix. So what do? You close your laptop, go into the sofa and reward yourself for a long day of work. Maybe you're even eating your dinner on the couch and leaving the dishes in the sink, telling yourself you'll clean up tomorrow. And finally, you fall asleep at 2 a.m. having binged an entire series in one day. Cut to 6 a.m. the next day, and you wake up very tired after just 4 hours of sleep. So the next thing you want to do is pour yourself a cup of coffee. But you're greeted by a pile of dirty dishes from yesterday. And now, instead of going for your morning run, you have to spend your time cleaning dishes. Unfortunately, this is a scenario that was all too common for me. And I knew it was no good, but I never really thought of the alternative. Even if on some days I tweaked this routine so I was going to bed early, I would still wake up disorganized and carrying the stress and the fatigue from the previous day. So what can you do to make this all better? Let's start with the basics, making going to bed on time a habit. So the first thing you want to do when you're planning your nighttime shutdown routine is to decide when you are going to go to bed and follow that time consistently. When you make it a habit to go to bed at a certain time and wake up at a certain time, your body clock will start adjusting to this, and you will naturally get sleepy at the same time every single day. So how do you know when you should go to bed? You can work out when you should go to sleep by working backwards and deciding when you need to wake up. So most of us need 7 to 9 hours of sleep. So all you need to do is think of the time that you need to wake up and then move 7 to 9 hours before, and that's the time that you need to go to bed. Of course, there is no hard and fast rule as to when you should wake up and how many hours you should sleep. This does vary from person to person, but this is the minimum recommended amount. In the end, the idea is to just fine-tune your own schedule, so that you aren't waking up groggy and zombie-like. But there's a little more to this than just getting a certain number of hours of sleep, and for that we need to understand a little bit of science. So basically, we sleep in 90-minute cycles, going between the slow wave and REM phases of sleep. Now, without alarms, you would naturally wake up at the end of a sleep cycle feeling fresh. But what an alarm does is it jerks you awake, and unfortunately, this could be in the middle of a cycle. And if that's the case, you are going to wake up feeling unrested. So 90 minutes is the average amount and isn't necessarily how long your cycle is. So what you want to do is figure for how long your cycles are, and you want to work out when you go to bed, such that you wake up at the end of a cycle. And you can do this with a simple tracking app on your phone. And then accordingly decide when to sleep and when to wake up. Now, with a good idea of when you're going to go to bed, let's talk about what you should do leading up to that. Your instinct at the end of the workday is to reward yourself for the hard work you put in. And you're probably justified in this. After work, it's time to wind down and relax. But before you go ahead and jump into the couch, there are a few things you should do that will help you really relax. And more importantly, make the next day go easier. After finishing your work, what you want to do is reset your workspace and set it up for the next day. And this can involve many things. If you're working on a laptop or a computer, you should save all your files, delete the temporary ones, close all the tabs, and shut your computer down. Basically, you're cleaning up for a fresh start the next day. This applies to your desk or office too. When you arrive and you have a clean and organized work environment, you're more likely to be motivated to work. And also, you won't be wasting your peak productive hours looking through notes or papers or scanning through all your open tabs to find the ones where your work is saved. And this even applies to your home too. As part of your night routine, you should spend an hour or so cleaning up your room, doing things like washing the dishes and watering your plants. Not only should you reset the space, but you can also take out some time to prepare things for the next day. One of the things that I really like to do is just write on a piece of paper the one thing that I need to complete the next day. And there are other things you can do as well. Maybe you can prepare your next day's lunch, laying out your clothes for the next day, or packing your bags if you're going somewhere tomorrow. Now let's talk a little bit about electronics. You should put your electronics to charge and decide not to use them about an hour before you go to bed. And this is going to help you relax and wind down. You have basically removed the option of spending the last hour of your day scrolling on your phone, for example. And what's more, the light of your electronics are also no good for your sleep. So when you remove that in the last hour of your day, you're gonna sleep a lot better. So now let's move on to preparing for the next day. When you're preparing for the next day, a good habit to have is to make a plan for the next day. And this could be an entire day's plan, or you can make notes to remind yourself about the important tasks that you need to get to. For example, if you know that your next day is going to be busy, but you want to make sure you achieve a certain goal by the end of the day, you can make a note of this and keep it on your desk so that throughout the day you are reminded of your main goal for that day. While you're making this plan for the next day, you should also reflect on the day that you had. You can also write things that you have learned during the day, the main outcomes and what you need to get to the next day. And once you have written all of this down, you can go to bed with a clear head. And you also have something to come back to if you ever come across similar problems. And this time when you reflect on your day is also a great time to track your habits and make note of any progress you may have made on a goal you have set for yourself. Having prepared yourself for the next day, you can finally go into that couch. But if you want to get to sleep on time, you might want to keep some things in mind while you treat yourself. A little while before you go to bed, you might want to keep away, of course, your phone, but also things like video games and binge-worthy shows and other things that are going to keep your mind at high functioning capacity. Not only is it going to be hard to put such things down, but no matter how much you tell yourself you can, it's likely you won't be able to go to sleep right after you end that activity. Instead, you might want to do something more relaxing in 1 hour before you go to bed. Now, alarms in the morning are common enough, but setting one for an hour before you should sleep is also a great habit. If your work gets extended later into the evening, once you hear this alarm, you can give yourself about 10 minutes to finish or close your work and take the next hour to reflect on your day and prepare for the next one. Or if you have wrapped up work and you are done planning for tomorrow and you have started doing something else, an alarm can be a good reminder to switch into a more relaxing activity that will allow you to get to sleep on time. Now, during this time right before you sleep, you can also do some light activity like reading a fiction book or something of personal interest, journaling, or maybe even some stretches of yoga. If you're reading or maybe watching TV, it should be something that you can put down easily when it's time to sleep and it won't keep you up thinking. So now imagine this, it's late into a Wednesday evening and you have just finished your day's work. You take 10 minutes to save all your work and clear up your desk. You take the next few minutes to reflect on your day, make a plan for the next, making important notes for yourself. You take your time to yourself, play that game you have been wanting to, or watch that show, or catch up with friends, and an hour before you go to bed, you put your electronics away. You eat dinner, wash the dishes, clean up your room, do some light reading, and fall asleep naturally, on time. Cut to the next morning and you wake up well rested, having had a good 7 hours of sleep. You have a plan for the day and you know what's your most important goal for that specific day. You're ready for your morning routine without any clutter from the previous day, and you can dive into your work fresh and motivated. I hope this video inspires you to improve your nighttime routine. And one of the best things you can do before going to bed is reading. So you should watch my next video on how I read more than 100 books in a year. So go watch it now and I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.